And what is interesting is that the person I am married to is not the person in these messages. Like, this man was on some nasty shit. And I say nasty not in a judgmental way, but in a, with me, he seemed to act as if I was damn near virginal white. And I clearly see evidence that you into some shit that with me, you acting like, nah, I ain't really into that. So, I confronted him. I absolutely confronted him and was like, what the fuck is this? If 2 + 2 is 4 and 5 + 5 is 10, what the fuck is this? And so he did not, oh, that ain't what happened, blah, blah, blah. Instead, what he hit me with is, man, I was just playing around. Like, ain't nothing happened. I shouldn't have said all that, but I was just flirting. It ain't mean nothing. I don't even know that girl. I was just flirting. And so I'm like, is this what you into? And so he was like, no, it's not what I'm into. It was just stupid. It was stupid because I shouldn't have done it. So I'm going to be honest with y'all, because I've been honest all this time. What pissed me off the most was that here I am as a woman behaving, trying to do the right thing by him and this marriage. And you mean to tell me you out here offering your ding-a-ling to random chicks that you don't even know? I was more angry at the fact that I'm like, dude, do you know how much I have turned down in order to be faithful to your dumb ass? And I'm seeing that you basically are out here acting like you got Skittles taste the rainbow. I was hurt. I was angry. I thought about getting my lick back. I'm just being honest. I did. And he played it off like it ain't nothing serious. It ain't nothing serious. Don't overreact. Don't get emotional. It was just dumb. He was like, I will delete the messages. I'll even delete Messenger. And I told him, I was like, that's really not good enough, because that's not going to fix the root of the issue. So this is where I introduced that we need to do marriage counseling. He didn't have any issue doing marriage counseling. We did not do premarital counseling. But he was like, that's fine. He was like, I don't have no problem doing marriage counseling because if anything, it can help us. So I thought that, okay, he may not have physically cheated from what I could see on the messenger. He may not have physically cheated, but he damn sure got caught, doing a little something, because they had exchanged pictures. So y'all know what pictures he sent. And I was disappointed because I don't like men that send those type of pictures. But anyway, that's another issue. So we agreed that we would start marriage counseling. We also agreed that we would put on a united front when my mom got there. In other words, we were not going to argue. We, let's just act like everything is fine. But at that point, when my mother arrived in April, I could not stand him. I did not want to be, but we couldn't, he moved back into our bedroom because he had moved into the guest bedroom when I saw the messages. Like 3 days before she came, he moved back into the bedroom because obviously she needed to sleep somewhere. So, I really could not stand him. And it was because I was busy second guessing myself. Like, damn, what's wrong with me? Like, if that's what you into and I'm supposed to be your wife, like, let's have conversations. Like, shit, I went to FAMU. I understand some stuff, buddy. So it just was one of those things where it made me second guess, like, what's wrong with me? What did I do wrong? What is it that she got that I don't? Because you all out here willy-nilly, messaging her all hours of the night, because the thread went back quite a few weeks. I saw it in March. There were messages from December, November. So again, I'm just second guessing all kinds of stuff, self-esteem taking a hit. So no, I did not want to be around him. I did not want, I didn't like him, period. I did not like him. I left and I would just go for a drive because driving clears my mind. I called my aunt, told her what happened. I don't recommend that. I don't recommend calling family to tell them what's going on in your marriage. But I called my aunt, and my aunt lovingly was like, what do you want me to say? You married him. You know, he ain't your boyfriend. Y'all can't just break up. That's the hard part about marriage, is like, I mean, yeah, I guess you could leave him, but at the same time, you married him. So, honey, you gonna have to go back home. And y'all are gonna have to figure this out. She was like, I can't give you advice on what you should do. I'm sorry that this happened, but you married him. So even though it was just one drive, I went back home, and that's when the discussion was, we need to do marriage counseling. 3, who the fuck did I marry? So we agreed to do marriage counseling. I had found a pastor and his wife who agreed to do our counseling. Basically, our counseling was going to be on Zoom, and it was going to be every other week, every other Tuesday. Initially, Legion was participating in it. His body language seemed to be that he was open and receptive to the marriage counseling. Now, the pastor and his wife were deeply concerned at the fact that we had only been married 3 months, and we were already dealing with some form of infidelity. We were in marriage counseling, and as the pastor would put it, there seems to not be any sort of intimacy. They were concerned. Rightfully so. I think any person would be if they knew what was going on within those 3 months. So the pastor and his wife, it is fair to note, we started counseling with them in the spring. We continued counseling with them up until a week before I found out what I found out, and he got kicked out. So one of the first things that the pastor kind of talked to us about was, what was the deal with the Facebook Messenger stuff? And Legion was like, it was stupid. I shouldn't have done it. It really was just attention, and I got carried away. He felt like he kept saying, I'm not going to keep apologizing. I'm not going to keep getting persecuted. After I told you, I'm sorry, I told you I wouldn't do it again, and I want us to move forward. You're either going to forgive me or you're not. The pastor and his wife were like, wow, the audacity is real on this one. So needless to say, we started moving slowly forward. It was always in the back of my mind, just like it was in the back of my mind with that black Dodge Charger. It was one of those things where, okay, I see how you kind of are moving and operating. He came to me a few days after we started our first counseling session, and he was like, we should get a joint bank account. What he wanted to do was to each one of us have our own account, and to get a joint account for our money to go in there for joint expenses. Now, up until this point, he had been paying the rent, the utilities, and I really was just paying for my stuff. So now he's suggesting, look, we're married now, let's go ahead and get a joint account. I wasn't necessarily against it because I knew that I would still have my own account. I would still have my own savings. So what I countered with was, okay, let's take a look and see what we're working with. Show me your checking. Let's look at each other's accounts. Look at what we have currently. He was cool with that. So he shows me his checking account. His checking account available balance was just over $9,600. Mine was just over $1,500. So there was a huge disparity in the amounts. And so he logged in on the phone and turned it towards me, and I could see available checking, available balance, just over $9,600. I logged into my savings. I showed him how much I had in savings. He picked up his phone, logged into his Chase savings, turned the phone towards me. In the Chase savings, it was roughly about $15,000. But I also knew that he told me he had a U.S. bank savings and he had an offshore savings. So at this point in time, I asked him, show me the U.S. bank savings, show me the other two accounts. He would not do it. This became a huge bone of contention. He would not show me the two accounts that he claims has the most money in there, the accounts that he claims has money for a house in there, because he still was mentioning, hey, we need to get on this house thing if we're going to move when the lease is up. So I'm just adamant on, why don't you want to show me your savings account? You showed me the Chase one. Like, what is the big deal? And so he kept saying, he was like, there's a lot of money in there. And he was like, and my uncle always taught me, this is not the uncle that died, another uncle. My uncle always told me, you know, just keep your money tight because women can be, I said, women, like, we're married. So go ahead and show it to me. He would not show it to me. So then we went back into marriage counseling, like the next session, and I bring it up. I said, he will not show me these two accounts that he claims has the money in there to buy a house. I told our pastor and his wife, I said, I saw the pre-approval letter, so I don't understand why he's not going to show me, to just put me at ease that he has the money in there. I had never questioned it before because, again, you tell me who in their right mind signs their name to a legally binding offer, an all cash offer on a house, and they just do it willy-nilly. I don't know anyone that does that. So I actually never questioned what was in the savings because I clearly saw him sign his name to a $699,000 all cash offer on a house. If you don't know what I'm talking about, please go back to the parts in this playlist where I talk about what he did when we were looking for a house. So the pastor and his wife were like, Legion, that's not his name, y'all, that's a nickname. Legion, why would you not show your wife your savings account? Like, what's going on here? And so he made up some bullshit. And I remember the pastor's wife was like, something ain't right. And so at this point, Legion kind of shuts down. He's just like, look, y'all are not going to tell me when and where I open up my accounts to show anybody the money I earned. I earned that money. I earned that money by playing football, blood, sweat, and tears. He went to this whole Denzel Washington monologue about how he earned that money. And no one is going to come in and tell him that he needs to open up the account. So then he starts talking about the ex-wife and how she tried to get money from him in the divorce back when they were in California. So now the pastor and his wife, their red flags are just like, whoa. So much so that the pastor's wife said, and I will never forget this, she said, I don't think you all are going to make it to January. What she was talking about is, I don't think y'all are going to make it a year. And I really, truly was like, we're going to make it. Like, of course we're going to make it. And she was just like, I don't have a good feeling about it. And so Legion's all defensive. He at this point, he's folding his arms and because remember, we're on Zoom. He's folding his arms and he's just like, I'm done with this. Like, I'm not going to get attacked because I'm not comfortable showing you the amount of money that I have. Money changes people. And I'm not comfortable. So he's playing that victim card. And so the pastor and his wife were like, you know, we're still going to help y'all as much as we can. But so he was like, I'm not comfortable. And basically the pastor and his wife were like, look, we'll help y'all as much as we can, but there's some deep issues here. And, you know, this is what they advised us. Had the two of you came to us for premarital counseling, we would have told you, do not get married. Y'all should not even be together. That is what the pastor and his wife told us in marriage counseling. If you two had come to us for premarital counseling, we would have told you y'all should not even be together, let alone get married. But here we are. So we will help you guys as much as we can. But the pastor's wife was like, I don't have a good feeling that y'all are going to make it a year. Part 24, who the fuck did I marry? So remember, we're in April. We're now moving towards the end of April. And he still did not show me his savings account. Saw the checking, saw the Chase savings. So he decides that we should start looking for a house again, because my lease was up in August and I made it very clear that when the lease is up, I am moving. I wanted to move to Cobb County. So he was like, we need to get the ball rolling. I didn't want any parts of it. Didn't want any parts of it. He found a realtor. This time it was a woman. It was a woman. And I believe her name was Amber. I think her name was Amber. So he found a realtor and he told her what the budget was. Amber started finding houses. So please understand, or you don't really have to understand, but I believed he was a sane, rational human being. Sane enough that you would not sign an offer on a home if you didn't have the money. That's what I believed. So when we started working with Amber, I believe showed us 3 or 4 houses. It was not nearly as many as the other realtor, Scott. So one of the houses, absolutely loved. Ugh. I love the house. I really wanted to put in an offer on that house, and I'm going to post it on the screen, the house. Love that house. It was just absolutely beautiful. And once again, he wanted to put in an all cash offer on the house. But before he could put in he had told Amber, I want to put in an all cash offer. And what Amber, the woman, was smart enough to say is, okay, let's just go ahead and take it one step at a time. Let's go ahead and get your pre-approval stuff together. She said, I work with a great lender who, if you're not already pre-approved, he can get you pre-approved, no issues. And then if you want to do an all cash offer, then we'll go ahead and get the proof of funds together. So that way we can submit it all with your offer. Jesus. Y'all already know what happened, because you remember what happened on the last house with Scott. Basically, Legion was like, well, I can get you whatever you need. That's fine. But I really don't want to submit proof of funds unless they accept the offer. Amber, and I don't know where she is. I don't even know if she'll ever see this video. Anyway, let me keep going and I'll explain why that woman has a special place in my heart. So Amber was like, I totally understand, but this is how we're going to do it. I'm going to need that paperwork, okay? And we'll submit it with your offer. She just simply was like, yeah, this is how we're going to do it. And so he did not submit the paperwork when she had asked him to. And I remember I was driving to work and I stopped at the Quick Trip on Upper Riverdale Road in Riverdale, Georgia. And Amber had called me. It was in the morning. She had called me. And I believe with all my heart that Amber knew something was up, but she also knew I did not know what was up. So she called me and she was like, I just don't understand. Like, if he has the paperwork, like, you can submit the paperwork. But the issue was the Chase paperwork that I had was from a year prior. So my understanding was that it pretty much was no good at this point. So she said all he has to do is just email it to me or take a picture of. She was like, I just need to know that he's able to back up his offer. And I said, I totally get it. And she was explaining some stuff to me. She was like, he needs to do X, Y, and Z. And so I said to her, I remember I said, I don't know what's going on. I said, I'm going to get down to the bottom of it, but I don't know what's going on. And so let's put a pause on this whole thing. Let's put a pause on looking at houses. Let's put a pause on getting his pre-approval letter, because I'm not sure what's going on. And she got quiet and she said, okay. I said, and I know this sounds weird. And she said, no. She said, that is actually very smart. She said, do your research. And if I can be of assistance, call me. She said, whether you buy a house with him or you buy a house on your own, I will be more than happy to represent you. I don't know where Amber is today, but that one sentence, I felt like just woman to woman, she was basically telling me something ain't right. Baby, something ain't right. And now you need to open your eyes. I'll be more than happy to work with you. If y'all get your shit together, I'll work with both of you. But whether you buy a house or not, do your research and then let me know what I can do. That was our conversation at the Quick Trip on Upper Riverdale Road. So I got off the phone. That was the last time that we worked with any sort of realtor. That was the last time that we looked at any sort of house. And I don't remember exactly what happened after that, meaning that day. I do know that when I went home, I simply told him, I don't want to look at a house right now. I said, I think it's okay if we rent. We'll just find a house in Cobb County and just rent for a year. And let's build, save some more money. Let's just, let's not worry about buying a house right now. And basically what I was trying to do was save face, because that was the first time with Amber that I actually was embarrassed at the fact that he and I, because I felt like I was complicit in the fact that I'm going to look at houses with him. I felt like we are wasting these people's time. I did not mean to waste your time. I clearly see my time as being wasted, but that doesn't mean I need to waste your time. And I felt embarrassed at the fact that we wasted her time coming across as serious buyers. When time came to put up or shut up, nothing was put up. And I knew nothing. I had nothing to add to add to this, because we're talking about a $650,000 house, and I don't make that. I don't make anywhere near that. So it just became one of those situations where I was trying to save face. I was trying to save face with my husband, and I was trying to save face with Amber. And so I did say to him, let's just rent for another year, and then let's see at that time where we are, if we should go ahead and buy. So now is when shit is about to get real. Part 25, who the fuck did I marry? So we weren't looking at houses anymore. We were not working with a realtor anymore. The end of April, I had decided that I wanted to look for another job. I did. The reason I wanted to look for another job is petty. Yeah, it is. I wanted to look for another job because I was pissed off at the fact that I had basically was dependent on him to help with the car note. So I wanted to look for another job where I could afford life all by myself, including that car note, basically where I would make more money. I told him that I was going to start looking for another job. He laughed. And his exact words were, "You're not going to leave Georgia State Patrol." He was like, "I swear you love them niggas more than you love me." He laughed. So that fueled me even more. So I was hitting the pavement hard trying to find another job. I was applying to all kinds of places. Got a phone call from my current job. So this is how I ended up in my current job. Got a phone call. They had sent me an email with a background packet. The background packet was long and extensive, but in the background packet, it asked for my spouse's full name, my spouse's date of birth, and my spouse's social security number. So I showed it to Legion and I was like, "I need your social because, I'm applying for this job. It's a great job. It's way more money. And, we're talking about moving anyway to Cobb County. So this is a God thing." He did not want to give me his social. I showed him the paperwork where I was like, "Look, because we are married, I can't lie on here. So help me." So he writes down his social security number on the background packet. And I eventually turned it in. I had scanned it, saved it in my email, and sent it in. And I looked at it one day, just going through it, just making sure I didn't really miss anything. All T's were crossed, all I's were dotted. And I looked at his social, and something about the social seemed different than the social security number that I remember seeing when we did our marriage license. And so for those who you remember in the previous part, I said I had ran his social security number from the marriage license. Nothing came back. So I thought that I had written it down wrong. Basically, what it is that the first three numbers were different on the background packet than what was on the marriage license. If you don't know this, here's a little trivia. Your social security number, the first three numbers, pretty much are dictated by the state you were born in and the state that issued your birth certificate. So he was born in Pennsylvania. So the first three numbers of his social security number should be attributed to Pennsylvania. Pennsylvania, they probably got like 5-6 different numbers, 3-digit numbers that your social security number can start with. So the social that was on the marriage license, for example, was probably 123. What was on the background was 456. Both of those social security 3-digit prefixes are issued through the state of Pennsylvania. Again, this is an example so I can make it clear. So when I saw his social on my background, I immediately knew that was a different social than what I saw on the marriage license. And when I compared, because I had found a copy of the marriage license that we turned in because I had filled it out on the computer. So sure enough, the first three numbers were different. The rest of the numbers were the same. So one of two things: either when I ran his background, I did in fact put in the wrong number, or the number on the marriage certificate or the background packet is wrong. So I decided that I was going to roll the dice and take the social from the background packet. Again, this is the background packet that I had to fill out to get my current job. I was trying to get a new job. Okay, so I took that social and I ran a background check on it. What came back on this particular background was all the addresses that the social security number, I guess, had been attached to. So all of the addresses, the states were Georgia, Rhode Island, Pennsylvania. What I did not see was California. So I thought that was weird. I thought, okay, maybe this is not a complete background because clearly he went to San Diego State. It's on his resume. It's on quite a few things. Social media. He didn't have a LinkedIn, but it was on his social media. So clearly he had been to California. So maybe I just need to do a different background check. Also to note, during this time, I think I told you guys he had hit his leg at work. So what was happening was it was getting more and more difficult for him to walk, like put pressure on that leg, on that knee. He was still able to go to work. He was still leaving at 6:15 in the morning. He was still coming back between 3:30 and 4 o'clock. But I clearly could see where he was in pain. He would elevate the knee, ice the knee. It was getting worse. And I was constantly like, go to the doctor. Let me take you to urgent care so that they can look at this knee, because you shouldn't still be limping and having a hard time putting weight on that knee. And every single time he was like, oh, it's fine. I have a doctor's appointment on Wednesday. The doctor just told me to ice it and to elevate it. This is an old football injury. It happens all the time. It used to happen a lot when I was out in California. So I'm mentioning this knee issue for a reason. But back to the background. So once again, when I ran the background the second time with the second social, it showed me states of Georgia, Pennsylvania, and Rhode Island. And that's all that I saw in terms of addresses. I didn't see anything for California. So by this point, we're moving into May of 2021. Things are starting to reopen. One of the things that reopened was San Diego State. So I called San Diego State. I called the registrar's office. Someone did answer, and there was instructions on how to request a transcript. I was able to try to request it online. You needed the student's name, and I believe you also need their social. And when I typed it in, it said no results found. I believe that I sent an email asking, this person is saying that they were a student there. Can you verify it? The response I got was there were no records found with that social security number. So I'm like, okay. I asked him about it. And in part 26, I'll tell you exactly what his response was. Part 26, who the fuck did I marry? So I asked Legion, what's the deal about San Diego State? He was like, what are you talking about? And I said, why is there no records of you there? It just came right out and said it. Without missing a beat, this man said, well, I was a private citizen. What the fuck does that mean? And what he said is that when he started at San Diego State, his father paid money so that, okay, it's important I say this with a straight face. His father paid money so that his name and social would not be publicized and he would be considered a private student, a private citizen. He said that he had a card where all he had to do was show the card. He does not have to give his name. He does not have to give any information because he had that card. He said, so San Diego State would not have any record of him, but he was in fact a student there. I said, and you claim that you played football. He was like, I did play football. I said, so you're saying that the school did not publish your name anywhere and they were in violation of NCAA rules? And he was like, why are you asking all these questions? And I said, I'm just curious. I'm just curious. You're saying that you were a private citizen, but yet how were you in compliance with NCAA if you were a private citizen and they did not publish your name on any roster? So that was his excuse. He was like, all I can tell you is that I was a private citizen. My dad paid for it. Okay. So now I know that San Diego State has no record of him. Now I know that his social security number, at least the one that's on my background packet, only shows that he lived in Georgia, Rhode Island, and Pennsylvania. Okay. So at this point, the pain in his knee is getting worse. It's getting to the point where when he would come home from work, he would take a shower and immediately get in bed, elevate his knee. He was not even eating the way that he used to eat. It was getting to the point where at times, if you remember when I told you all about the miscarriage, they gave me pain meds because I had taken that pill. But the pain meds I was allergic to, so I couldn't take them, but I still had them. So the pain in his knee was getting to the point where he would take one of those pain meds just to get through the night. He was constantly in agony, constantly kind of tossing and turning, so much so that in May he moved into the guest bedroom because I couldn't deal with the tossing and turning thing. And he just said he was more comfortable there. So what at first was I hit my knee at work turned into, no, it was an old football injury. This has happened before. Turned into, it's painful for me to walk on it. Turned into, it's actually hard for me to work on it. But he was still going to work at 6:15 every morning and coming home between 3:30 and 4. So it is, again, I'm just giving you guys the chronological order of how all this happened. So at this point, we're not looking for a house. I still have not seen the 2 savings account. I'm pretty sure there's no money in those savings accounts. But again, he was going to put in an all cash offer with Amber, the realtor. So I really didn't know what to believe, but I believed what I saw, which is I saw that background is not showing where he went to California. So at one point in May, it was close to mid-May, he calls me from work. He calls me from work, calls me while I'm at work, and tells me that he got a phone call from his stepson. The phone call from his stepson, the stepson was crying and was just absolutely distraught. And I'm at work in my office like, what's going on? And he says to me that the stepson informed him that his stepdaughter passed away, that she died from COVID. The stepson, this is the story. The stepson found her in her apartment because they had not heard from her for a couple of days. And she was unresponsive. He called the ambulance. They pronounced her dead when she got to the hospital. So he was calling to tell me that she had died. And he was also calling to ask me if I would object to him giving his ex-wife $2,000 towards the funeral. As I've stated before, and I still am this way to this day. I don't play about death. So when he told me that she died, I immediately that David is for. All of this is in the divorce documents. She had filed. She said it was irreconcilable differences. She was not requesting any money whatsoever. And both of them had signed a pauper affidavit. He was served in Georgia at his previous employment. According to the divorce documents, he was served at like a grocery store. That is what was listed as his employer. And it had a date of when he was served. So I see all of this in one day. I also see where on the divorce documents, she listed her name, her address, and her phone number. So I did what any rational person would do. I wrote down the phone number. There was a 50-50 chance that the number was already disconnected. She could be like me. I'm one of those people, honey, you can sneeze at a 27-degree angle. I will change my number so quick, you ain't even know what hit you. You can talk to me at 5 o'clock and at 5:05, my number has been changed. So she could have been like me and the number is not even active. Or she could be like some people I know who have kept their number since kindergarten. Either way, I wrote the number down. I left the court and I immediately went back to work. And the same friend who helped me when I had my miscarriage, I told her, I was like, I got this phone number. This is the ex-wife. She was like, girl, you better call. You better call and find out from her. Because I think she said to me, can't nobody tell you what is going on quite like the ex-wife. So, part 28 is the phone call that I had with the ex-wife. Part 28 of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So, I had the phone number, went back to work. My really good friend was like, you better call her. You can use my phone, but call her. So I called her. She answered. Let me use aliases. And the conversation went like this. May I please speak with Barbara? This is Barbara. Barbara, this is Shirley. Shirley who? This is Shirley Jones. I am the wife of Legion. Silence. Then she starts laughing. And she said to me, and I quote, if you were calling me, then I know it's bad. I chuckle and I said to her, I'm not trying to bother you. I'm not trying to disrupt your life. I said, I am literally coming to you on some woman-to-woman shit. I said, because you are probably the only person who can help. She listened. She was gracious. And she said, what is it that you need to know? Or what is it that you want to know? And I said, I understand that you and my husband talk and communicate. And she immediately said, what? No, we don't. And I said, okay. She said, one thing you need to know about Legion. She said, whatever he tells you, it is a lie. And she said, let's go back to part 1. I told you guys that when he introduced himself or when we met, we actually had matched on 2 different sites. And he was under 2 different names. One was like the actual birth name. The other one was a nickname variation of that name. That's the name I know him by. So for example, if his name was Matthew, He had a profile under Matthew, and then he had a profile under Matt. I would have known him as Matt. So she said to me, she was like, I don't even know who Matt is. She was like, that's not even his name. And so I knew what his actual government name is. She was like, no one calls him Matt. She was like, that must be his new personality. Or she was cracking a joke, but she was like, anything he tells you, you need to know is a lie. So I just asked her, I said, what was your experience? I said, because I can tell you the story he told me. And she stopped me right there. She said, whatever he told you was a lie. She said, let me guess. He told you I cheated on him. Let me guess. He told you that I wanted money from him. And I said, yeah. And she said, yeah, that's a complete lie. So we had a conversation where she told me how they met. They didn't meet online or anything. I said, well, were you guys ever in California? She said, no. She's like, she was like, that man ain't never been past the East Coast. So I said, okay. So you guys have always been in Georgia? And she said, yeah. She's like, we got married in Georgia and we got divorced in Georgia. And that's when she asked me, how did you even get my number? She said, because I want nothing to do with him. So how did you get my number? I said, I'm going to tell you the truth. It ain't going to make me look good. I told her, I said, this is what happened. And this is what led to me doing research. And this is how I got your number. And she laughed. She was like, wow. She was like, normally I would be freaked out. She said, but under the circumstances, she was like, wow, okay. She said, yeah, if you're calling me, then it must have gotten pretty bad. She said, so what did he promise you? And we talked for about 35 minutes. She asked me in that phone call, she said, look, I want nothing to do with him. I have not spoken to him since our divorce was finalized. She said, so I would just appreciate if you keep me out of whatever's going on with y'all. And I told her, I said, I give you my word, I will never tell him I spoke to you. I said, I give you my word. I said, this conversation is for me. It is not for me to use in any sort of legal litigation, nothing. This is for me. And I said, I don't plan to call you again. I don't plan to be a disruption in your life. I just needed to know, how bad is it? And she paused and she said, it's bad. She said, I don't know what all y'all got going on. She said, but if it's anything like what it was for me, it's bad. So we talked a little bit more. She was very encouraging. She was like, girl, do not blame yourself. She said, I went through that and I had blamed myself. She was like, this is not on us. This is on him. She was like, he is a master liar. A master manipulator. She said, I ignored the red flags. So she was like, do not feel as though this is on you. We talked about there's an ex-girlfriend that shares the same name as his aunt. She and I talked about her. She said the reason why they broke up, because the ex-girlfriend, I didn't know this, the ex-girlfriend had reached out to her about 6 months before he met me. And so the ex-girlfriend lived in Douglasville. On Legion's driver's license, he had a Georgia driver's license with the Douglasville address. What he told me was that it was the address that his sister, because remember I told y'all his sister Shantae lives in Douglasville. She's a nurse, married with 2 kids. So he told me that the address on his license, it was his driver's license, was to Shantae's house. The ex-wife is telling me, no, that's the address for the girlfriend, the ex-girlfriend. He had moved in with her, and he created this whole narrative with her. She found out that he was lying, and she kicked him out. And so I guess after she kicked him out, she then reached out to the ex-wife, kind of the way I did, for confirmation. And so the ex-wife was just telling me, whatever that man has told you, it is a lie. She said, I got out before it got too bad. She said, because once I knew he was lying, I was out. She was like, because he's never going to change. And so, again, conversation went on and on. And so finally, we were getting ready to get off the phone. And before we got off the phone, I said to her, I said, if everything is a lie, I said, I have one question for you. And she said, sure. I said, how is your daughter? I said, how is your daughter? Next part coming up. Part 29, who the fuck did I marry? So I asked her, how is your daughter? She said, my daughter's fine. And I said, okay. She said, what did he say about my daughter? And I will be honest with y'all, I didn't have the heart to tell her. So what I said instead was, oh, no, it was, with everything with COVID, I think he mentioned that she might have had COVID or was exposed to it. I downplayed it bad. I wasn't going to tell that woman that he said her daughter passed away. So I said, obviously I'm glad to hear that kids are fine. She said, look, whether you stay with him or not is your choice. She said, he ain't gonna change. He ain't gonna change at all. She said, this is what he does. She said, you're not the first. You're not gonna be the last. She said, he did it to me. She was very, very encouraging, because she was just like, you do not blame yourself. She said, we both ignored red flags, but it is not your fault. She said, this is on him. And so we, once again, I thanked her for her time, got off the phone. I took the long way home that night. I could not be around him. I could not be around him. I had to figure something out. I had to figure some things out. So I took the long way home. What does that mean? It means that I probably could have taken 75 to 285, but I probably took 20 to 75 to 285 to 675 kind of like I just took the long way home. A couple of days later, because my mind was spinning. A couple of days later, at this point, I'm turning into the FBI, CIA, and Homeland Security all in one. Literally. I'm trying to find everything. And he's carrying on his business as usual. Nothing changed with him. He had no idea that I had spoken to the ex-wife. He had no idea I had gone to the court and saw his divorce documents. He had no idea. So a couple of days later, I decided to look up his mother's obituary. Look up the mother's obituary. And down at the bottom where it talks about, she's preceded in death by, and it lists all the people, the family members that died before. And then it says, leaving behind to cherish her memory. It lists the husband, her husband, excuse me. Let me start over. It lists her husband, which is Legion's dad. It lists Legion's brother that lives in Philly and his wife, because again, this is she passed away in 2015. So it lists Legion, the brother in Philly, and his wife and daughter, her granddaughter. It lists Legion and his wife, I think it was like Latoya or La something. It did not list the ex-wife I just spoke to. And it clearly said Legion, his wife, Latoya. Then it listed the brother in Nashville, his wife, Jane, or whatever. So I'm thinking to myself, there's two things I was thinking immediately. Number one, who is Latoya? Never heard that name before. So I was thinking, who was Latoya? And then number two, where are the two sisters? Shantae and Kim. Shantae lives in Douglasville, married with 2 kids. Kim lives in Augusta, and I believe he told me she worked at like Procter and Gamble. So why aren't they listed on here? Because apparently, go back to the video. I posted it on there. I gave y'all background on the family. He apparently was one of 5 through both parents. Brother in Philly, older brother, younger brother in Nashville, an older sister in Douglasville, and a baby sister in Augusta. So why is it on his mother's obituary there's only three children named? Where are the 2 sisters? So I'm even more like, what in the hell's going on? And then I started thinking to myself, why wouldn't they list Shantae? Like, they talk all the time, so I know that they're close because he talks to Shantae all the time. So I really was confused. Again, keep in mind, I'm trying to give y'all insight into how I was thinking May of 2021, because I still didn't find out a lot of stuff at that time. I found out enough to figure out, okay, it's not a question of if he's lying. That was over. It's not a question of if he's lying. The question now is becoming, what else is he lying about? So we had the phone call with the ex-wife. Now I see an obituary that apparently there's another wife. I know on our marriage certificate, it only states he had one previous marriage. I had 0, he had 1. So this is how I'm thinking in my head, which is, okay, what am I missing here? I know we've established that he's lying, but who the fuck is Latoya? Like, I'm really trying to understand who is Latoya. And again, he's hobbling around the house, limping, and I'm in our in the bedroom, just, I mean, I could not get on Google fast enough to try to figure some stuff out. So, see the mom's obituary, study it, and at this point, I'm now trying to figure out, okay, what's the game plan? What is the game plan? And that's where we are about to get into the next part. Okay, part 30 of Who the Fuck Did I Marry? So I'm going to use this as a clarification video. So we're going to use part 30 as a stop. Let's clarify some things. I've done that before on a previous set of videos, so I think it's just important to do that so that way I can try to address some of the things that I have seen in the comments, both supportive and just downright mean. But let me clarify some stuff. Number one, it is important to remember that I am telling this entire story of how I met dated, married, and divorced my pathologically lying ex-husband. I am going in chronological order of events. So what that means is that, ma'am, sir, whoever you are, if you were coming in at part 30, but you have not seen part 11, some stuff is not going to make sense. I know. It is a long playlist. And don't worry about watching the video as soon as it comes out, because everything, I'm trying to do this responsibly, of telling the story in the order of which things happen. So I say that to say, please, if you're able to, start at the introduction disclaimer video, start with part 1, and then just watch each video, because a lot of the questions people are having that I'm seeing in the comments, and I say this respectfully, is just because you did not go to the other videos and watch them in order. That's just the first thing I want to say. It is important that I get this story out, but that it's done, like I said, responsibly. To me, responsibly is being honest, even if it makes me look bad, but then also trying to be clear and not ramble all over the place. So I'm trying to take the time to tell you, this is what happened at this time. This is what happened at that time. That's why there's so many parts. And we're not even to the part of the divorce yet. We're almost there, but we're not there yet. Second thing I want to clarify. I cannot stress this enough. My family and my friends did not know what was going on between Legion and I. They did not know. My family only knew, we've met this guy. He's dating our daughter, our niece, our cousin, our granddaughter. He seems to be a really nice guy. He seems to really love her. From what he has told us, he's done well for himself. He played football. And he has worked at this company 6-7 years. And financially, he is in a good place. From what we understand, he just moved here from California. That is what they knew. They did not know about the red flags I had. They did not know what was going on in my head. They did not know what was going on in my heart, because I did not want to look stupid. I'm fully aware that when I tell this story, I look stupid. I'm aware, and I've made my peace with that. But at the time, I did not want to look stupid. So it was important to me to put on everything's great. We're really happy. We're looking for a house and everything's going well, knowing full well that behind the scenes, I couldn't figure out why he wasn't showing proof of funds. They did not know. So I say that to say, I see the comments about how my aunt gave me horrible advice when I called her about the sexting on Facebook. And I want to clarify something. She did not tell me to stay with him. She did not tell me to leave him. That's not her place, and that's not what she would do. She simply was in shock that any of this had happened and did not know what to give me advice on. The one thing that she did say was, look, he's not your boyfriend. Meaning, it ain't as simple as, oh, we just gonna break up. Pack your shit and go. Because you married him. My aunt is the most ride or die chick I've ever met. You fuck with me, you fuck with her. And she is straight Jersey. So I love her for it. But I needed to, it's not fair for me to leave it out there as if, oh, she just was like, girl, I mean, go home and deal with it. No, never in a million years. So I want to clarify that. Also want to clarify about my mom. So my mom lived in Arkansas, and when she came to visit in April, we were already married. This is her first time physically meeting Legion. My mom will tell you she had no idea anything was amiss, but there was something that nagged her a little bit. She didn't know what it was, and my mom is the type where she's going to get on her knees in prayer. That's who she is. So for her, it was like, I don't know what it is. He seems like a nice guy. He seems to love my daughter. Because again, there was no arguing in the house. The house was peaceful while she was here, even though behind the scenes, we had just came off of the whole sexting incident with other women. So for her, it was like, I don't know what it is. She did tell me later on that it seemed as if I wasn't as happy as she thought I would have been. But again, she took it to the Lord in prayer. And her prayer was, God, protect my child. I don't know what's going on, but protect her. That was my mom's response. So she did not know, she did not pick up or overhear something that was going on while she was here. She had a candid conversation with Legion, and Legion kind of came across as, I miss my mom. He missed his own mother. And so he called my mom, and doted on her. Again, putting on a charade. And so for her, it was like, bless his heart. That's what she said. Bless his heart. But no, she did not know the specifics. Nobody knew the specifics. They didn't know the specifics until we're talking May, June of 2021. They knew that we were looking for a house. They knew that the house fell through. They did not know about the proof of funds. They did not know that he wouldn't show me the savings account, the offshore account. So I just want to say that because to me, it would be irresponsible to not clarify what family and friends knew. Because these people have always been supportive of me, always had my back. I just simply did not share with them the things that I felt like were red flags, because again, my mindset at the time was, I want to be married, and what if he isn't lying? And I was making excuses for him to myself, so I definitely would have made excuses to family. Another thing I need to clarify, and I saw the comments on this about how a VP would never date someone that looked like me. And to the person that wrote it, that wasn't very nice. I need you all to understand, the relationship started in March of 2020. He came into my life as regional manager. Okay. That is how he came into my life. Then eventually he got promoted to VP of production or operations, some VP of something. That was later on in the relationship. He showed me the paperwork where it was basically a memo from HR. Your new position title will be VP of production. We'll just say production. Your salary, I don't remember the exact amount because it was a very specific amount, but it was over $200,000. It listed some of the benefits that he would have. He would have an office. He would be getting an executive assistant. That's where we get David from. If you don't know who David is, please go back and watch the series in order. He would be getting an executive assistant. He would be getting use of the company helicopter. He would be getting a company car. That is where we're introduced to the fact that he was starting to shop for a company car that could not be more than $90,000. That's what he told me. I didn't see this in the memo, the amount of the car, but that's what he told me. So that's where you get the car shopping for the Range Rover, the Jaguar, the BMW. He even test drove a Mercedes GLE, I believe. So I'm just trying to, again, bring some clarity to this so that way we all can understand what's going on. And hopefully this just makes a lot more sense for everyone.